In a modest foster home, 8-year-old Christine played beneath a high shelf where a blue heirloom vase sat like a warning. A sudden crash. The vase shattered across the hardwood, shards spraying like frozen tears.
You stupid child. That vase was worth more than you'll ever be. I'm done. We're sending you back. You're not worth the trouble.
Please don't let them send me away. I didn't mean it.
Mary grabbed the phone, dialing the caseworker with practiced speed.
Yes, we want to disrupt this placement. The child broke a valuable item. We're done.
She's really doing it. They're throwing me away like a broken toy.
The line clicked. Mary had just returned a child with less ceremony than a damaged parcel.
8 months of promises, and now nothing.
The courtroom smelled of old wood and indifference. Christine sat at a heavy table, her feet not touching the floor, while Mary stood like an accuser.
She broke a family heirloom and showed no remorse. We cannot care for a child like this.
I didn't mean to break it. It was an accident. Please, I won't do anything wrong again.
This court must consider the best interests of the child, not the value of a broken object.
But her voice had no weight in the face of the filed petition. Her pen hovered, then descended.
She's going to sign. She's not going to save me.
The order stamped. The gavel fell once, and Christine felt the air leave her chest.
I'll remember her forever. The woman who gave me back like I was trash.
I have followed the law, but tonight my sleep will be troubled.
Christine was led through the door, her small hand disappearing into the corridor's shadow. In the years that followed, Christine's file grew thicker. She learned to measure time not by birthdays but by the number of times she was moved.
Why does no one keep me?
Each new house had a rule she'd already broken. Don't expect anything. She watched other children get chosen, while she was always the one returned.
I hated her more than anyone, but I can't forget her face.
At night, the judge came in dreams, silent, stern, always the same face.
I don't need anyone. I'm going to be a lawyer and make sure no kid gets treated like this.
She didn't know the face was a grandmother she'd never met, only that it promised reckoning.
1 more year, then I'm out. I'll find her. I'll make her explain.
But the system didn't offer explanations. It only offered survival, and Christine had learned to survive on rage. On her 18th birthday, Christine signed out of state care with a ballpoint pen that left a smudge on her thumb. She rented a room above a diner, the greasy air seeping through the floorboards, and took the breakfast shift.
At least here, nobody sends you back for dropping a plate.
At night, she studied for a GED at the local library, the law books calling to her from a shelf.
I'm going to understand the law, all of it, and then I'm going to find who that judge was.
One evening, the diner's television flickered. A local judge being sworn in, silver-haired, a face that stopped Christine's hand mid-pour.
It's not her, but it's close enough to feel like a punch. Do judges ever overrule themselves?
The coworker laughed, but Christine didn't. She enrolled in community college the next morning.
Pre-law, the first step to answering a question I've carried for 10 years.
The letter read, "You have been admitted to the law school." No fanfare, just the key that would unlock a locked room.
After everything, I'm here. Now the real work begins.
Orientation day swept her into a vast auditorium, the air thick with ambition and the scent of new books. A professor took the stage and said, "A judge's greatest power isn't the gavel. It's the ability to rewrite someone's life with a single sentence."
The woman who returned me, she rewrote mine without a second thought.
The next morning, Christine filed a records request for her foster care history, expecting a thin folder. What arrived was a thick envelope, but half the pages were covered in black ink, like secret wounds.
They redacted the judge's name. Why? What are they covering up? Fine. I'll find another way. I'm a law student now. I know how to dig.
That was the day Christine's legal education became personal. She would not graduate until she knew the truth. In the law library's basement, Christine became a ghost, sifting through microfilm of old court dockets. There, under her own case number, a faint entry. Motion for recusal withdrawn.
The judge tried to recuse herself. Why? And why was it buried?
She pulled the physical file, but the judge's name had been blacked out so heavily the page was frayed.
This isn't just redaction, it's deliberate destruction. Someone didn't want the truth to come out.
She filed a motion to unseal, leveraging every legal technique she had learned. The court denied it, citing administrative closure. The paper trail stopped cold.
Graduation is 3 weeks away, and I'm still staring at a black square where a name should be. I'll find her, even if I have to tear the system apart from the inside.
With her cap and gown hanging on the door, Christine had no answer, only a file that refused to speak its name. The morning of graduation, Christine zipped her black robe over a stomach full of dread. She had no family in the audience, only a decade-old question. Her name was called. She walked across the stage, the diploma heavy with meaning she couldn't yet claim.
This is for every kid who was told they weren't worth the paperwork. But where is she?
As she accepted the leather folder, her eyes swept the crowd. At the back, half hidden in shadow, an elderly woman stood alone.
That face. I know that face. It's the judge. Older, but the same bone structure. It's her.
For one frozen moment, their eyes locked, Christine's hand still gripping the diploma, the woman's hand pressed against her mouth. Then the woman turned and melted into the darkness of the aisle, as if she'd been seen and couldn't bear the light.
No, don't disappear now. I've been chasing your ghost for 18 years.
Christine pushed through the crowd, her cap slipping, family embraces blocking her, but the woman was gone. The auditorium emptied, leaving Christine standing in the aisle, clutching a diploma and a name she still didn't know. For weeks after graduation, Christine chased phantoms through public records, cross-referencing every retired female judge with her case number.
Nothing. The system swallowed her like it swallowed me. No trace.
Then a thick envelope slid under her door on a rain-soaked afternoon. No return address. Inside, "Dear Christine, I am the woman you saw at the ceremony. I owe you an explanation. Please meet me at the Willow Cafe on Saturday at 2 p.m. Catherine."
Catherine. The name is new, but the guilt in that handwriting is old. This is her. This could be a trap. Or it could be the answer to the only question I've ever asked.
She packed a legal pad, the redacted foster file, and a black pen, her armor.
I won't be 8 years old again. If she wants to talk, she faces the lawyer I became.
Saturday broke gray and still. Christine walked 3 blocks to the Willow Cafe, her shadow long on the wet pavement. A bell chimed as she pushed the door. Inside, she scanned the room for a face 20 years older than her memory. At a corner table, the elderly woman sat alone, a manila envelope before her, her hands trembling slightly on the wood.
The woman who ruined my life.
I am Catherine, the judge who returned you, and I am your maternal grandmother.
My grandmother? You sent me back like a broken toy, and now you claim we share blood?
I recused myself the moment I recognized your name, but a courthouse clerk, Mary's cousin, hid the motion.
The paper read, "Motion for recusal, presiding Judge Catherine, personal conflict of interest."
She tried to recuse herself. The black ink I chased for years, it was hiding this.
I never wanted to sign that order. My own daughter's child. I looked for you for 18 years, but the system buried you.
The recusal bore a date 2 days before the hearing, with a clerk's notation in smudged pencil. Withdrawn, error. But the ink underneath said, filed.
The face I hated for 25 years. It was my grandmother's face.
I left the bench at 67, not to rest, to find you. 3 investigators, year after year, but the system hides its mistakes well.
She had quietly funded a foster care nonprofit for 2 decades, subscribing to alumni newsletters, searching for a face that never left her mind.
6 months ago, your law school admissions photo was in a newsletter. I knew it was you.
She searched for me all those years. While I was building a career to hate her, she searched. My mother, your daughter. What happened to her?
That is a harder story. One, I need to tell you when you're ready, but not today.
She's holding back, but I've waited 25 years. I can wait a little longer.
Christine's hand, still clutching the recusal motion, relaxed a fraction. She wasn't ready to trust, but she was listening.
I'll send you the full file. My daughter's file, too. Everything I've gathered.
My mother's file. Maybe then I'll understand why the system broke us both.
A week later, a thick envelope arrived with no return address. Christine tore it open with trembling fingers. The top document read, "Cause of death, smoke inhalation. Manner, suicide." A red pen had circled inconsistencies in burn pattern. Beneath it lay a faded photograph. A young woman with auburn hair, laughing, holding a swaddled infant.
Janet, my mother. She looks alive. She looks like she loved me.
The private investigator's report was stark. Arson. Witness places Richard Wilkes at the scene with a gasoline can.
All these years, the system called it suicide, a lie. She was murdered.
Christine's hand fumbled for her phone, her voice cracking before the second ring.
You knew? You knew my mother didn't kill herself?
I only learned the truth last year. I've been gathering evidence ever since.
He's still alive. He's in prison. I can use my law degree to make sure he pays.
Christine spent 3 days cross-referencing the fire report with court records, her fingers stained with ink and old grief.
Richard Wilkes, he's in a maximum security cell, serving time for a different crime. This is possible.
She requested the cold case file from the district attorney's office, using her bar association number for the first time.
The evidence is stronger than I expected. A witness statement was never followed up. This case was deliberately buried.
She called Catherine late that night, her voice calm but carrying a storm underneath.
I'm going to make him pay for what he did to my mother. I'm filing a motion to reopen the case.
Christine, I never thought I'd hear those words. I've been living with her ghost for 25 years.
Catherine's sobs were muffled through the speaker, but Christine heard the release of a lifetime of guilt. At the courthouse the next morning, Christine filed the motion pro bono, signing her name with deliberate strokes.
The system took my mother and my childhood. Now I'm going to use its laws to get a piece back.
The prison smelled of bleach and old anger. Christine signed in with a steady hand, her briefcase heavy with 25 years of waiting.
I've imagined this conversation since I was 8. Now I'm a lawyer, and he's the one behind bars.
Richard Wilkes was led into the booth, orange jumpsuit sagging, his face lined with years of cheap survival. He picked up the phone with a smirk.
The foster kid all grown up. What do you want? A confession? You got nothing.
I have the fire report. I have a witness who saw you with a gasoline can. The system buried it once, but not twice.
Richard's smirk vanished. Sweat bloomed on his forehead, and the hand holding the phone trembled slightly.
That was 30 years ago. No jury will care about some deadbeat girl from the 90s.
She was my mother, and her jury will be the state Supreme Court. You can count on that.
Christine stood, her back to the glass. In her file lay a sealed statement from a former accomplice, naming Richard's motive and tying him to the fire.
He didn't confess, but his guilt is painted all over his face. Now the real fight begins.
Back in her office, Christine pinned the recusal motion next to the fire report. The same clerk's signature on both forms twisted a cold knot in her stomach.
One man. He buried my grandmother's recusal and ruled my mother's murder a suicide. 2 lies, and my life burned between them.
She pulled the clerk's employment record, finding a dusty disciplinary memo from 2001 flagging irregularities that were never investigated.
He was protected. Richard's family had local influence. They buried the truth in dry paperwork.
Deep in the clerk's sealed file, a handwritten note. Wilkes' family pressured me to rule suicide. I altered the report.
Catherine, it's here. The same clerk hid your recusal and then faked my mother's suicide. The conspiracy is the case.
Then we don't just prosecute Richard. We expose the whole system that failed her twice.
Christine photocopied the memo and filed an emergency motion to expand the scope of the hearing to include judicial corruption.
For 25 years, the system looked away. Now I'm holding its face to the fire until it sees what it let burn.
The court granted the expanded hearing. For the first time, Christine felt the weight of the law shift in her favor. The night before trial, they sat on a wooden bench outside the empty courtroom. The manila folder lay unopened between them.
I cut her off when she lost custody. I told her she wasn't fit. Then the fire. I believed she'd rather die than face me.
Her voice cracked. Tears spilled onto the navy dress she wore like armor.
You didn't light the match. The system let him walk. Now we expose it together.
I chased a ghost for 18 years, believing I killed her. Then I found you, and I didn't know how to say it.
The hatred I'd carried for decades, it wasn't for her. It was for the silence that kept us apart.
Christine took her grandmother's veined hands, pressing them together as if sealing a long broken vow.
We both were failed, but we found each other. That's the only verdict that matters tonight.
They embraced, the manila folder sliding to the floor, its testimony finally silent. At dawn, they walked into court side by side, not judge and child, but family. In the packed courtroom, Christine rose. She held the 1999 foster return file like a relic, its yellowed pages crackling under the lights.
Exhibit A. The same file that labeled a child defective for a broken vase, signed with a name our clerk later struck from the record. That clerk, a cousin of the foster mother, also ruled my mother's murder a suicide. One man, 2 pen strokes, and my entire family disappeared.
The gallery leaned forward. A collective breath held. In the front row, Catherine's knuckles whitened around the railing. Christine called her first witness. Catherine walked to the stand with the same deliberate grace she once carried to the bench.
Judge Catherine, when you recognized the child's surname, what did you do?
I filed a recusal so I could fight for her privately, but the clerk marked it withdrawn and never notified me. I learned the truth 18 years too late.
Richard's lawyer tried to object, but the judge overruled, leaning forward as if the system itself was on trial.
Mr. Wilkes, you claim you were home the night of the fire, but your former accomplice has signed a statement placing you at the scene with a gas can.
Richard's mouth opened, but no defense came. Sweat glistened on his forehead. The courtroom sat utterly still. The jury foreman unfolded a single sheet. The words hung in the air like a bell toll. Guilty on both counts, arson and murder. Richard Wilkes sagged in his chair as the bailiffs approached. The click of cuffs, a small, sharp sound in the silence.
She died believing no one would fight for her. Now the state has finally spoken her name.
Christine turned. Catherine was crying silently in the front row, her navy dress dark with tears, her hands covering her mouth. For a long moment, they just looked at each other, the judge who'd signed the order and the child she'd never stopped seeking. After the courtroom emptied, they found a wooden bench in the quiet marble hallway, sitting down with an exhausted gentleness.
Christine, there's one more thing. The court released the original 1999 foster return file. It's finally ours.
Christine took the folder, its yellowed edges soft with age. Her hands shook as if holding a child's heartbeat.
The file that once returned me like a defective toy. Now it testifies that I was never broken.
They pressed their shoulders together on the bench, the file opened between them like a bridge. They began to read. The first page was a cold summary, typed with mechanical indifference. Child C, returned to state custody due to behavioral issues, destruction of property, and emotional unmanageability.
That's how they saw me. A broken vase, a broken child, not worth the paperwork.
Foster mother Mary states, she broke an heirloom and showed no remorse. We cannot care for a child like this.
And beneath it, the recusal I filed, stamped withdrawn in that clerk's hand. He buried it here in my own file. I wrote that motion believing I would save you. Instead, a cousin of Mary erased it like a mistake.
Christine flipped to the last page. The clerk's forged note, judge certifies placement disruption. No contest. But the signature below was not Catherine's.
One man. 2 signatures he had no right to write. But his ink is dry, and his hand is still. He's gone. But we're not.
She closed the file gently, her hand resting on the worn cover as if laying a stone on a grave.
It's over. After 25 years, I can finally hold your hand without a courtroom between us.
Months passed. Christine passed the bar on a rainy Tuesday, the oath echoing in the same courtroom where her life had twice been decided.
What if we opened a law office together? Not for profit, for the ones still in the system. We could call it Janet's Door.
In a renovated storefront on Elm Street, they hung a simple sign, Janet's Door, legal aid for former foster youth.
Mother, this is your legacy too. Every kid who walks through that door will know someone fought for them.
I'll be here every day, helping with the intake calls. It's the least I can do after all those years on the bench.
Janet's Door is open now. It took 25 years, but we finally opened it together.
Within weeks, the small office filled with former foster youth seeking emancipation, records expungement, and a voice.
We don't just close cases, we keep doors open. That's what she would have wanted.
The 1999 file, now framed on the wall, drew eyes, a relic transformed into a reminder that the system could be changed.
Do you feel her here, Christine? I think Janet is finally at peace.
One afternoon, Christine stood in court arguing for a 17-year-old's emancipation, her voice the same one that had once pleaded for herself.
Your Honor, this child has lived more life than most adults. She deserves the chance to own hers.
In the gallery, Catherine's knitting needles clicked softly, a quiet counterpoint to the gavel. She watched with an old judge's pride and a new grandparent's tenderness. When the judge signed the order, Christine turned and caught her grandmother's smile, brief but brimming with years. That evening, they returned to the courthouse bench, the same wood where the file had been read, the same hallway now quiet.
Same bench, different weight.
We don't need the file anymore, do we?
No, we have each other now. That's the only document that matters.
Their hands found each other on the worn wood, no manila folder between them, just decades of waiting finally at rest.
Christine, I'm so glad the bench is empty tonight. Just us.
The bench stood empty now, the warmth of two women still lingering in the grain of the wood. On the worn seat, the manila folder lay where it had been left, its edges soft with age, the label 1999 facing the ceiling. The top page bore a bold red stamp, its ink slightly faded but unmistakable, released to family. The file that once returned a child like a defective toy now testified that she was never broken. The corridor held its breath, the dust suspended in the light as if reluctant to disturb the peace. No gavel echoed here. No case number was called. Only a quiet truth, resting on aged wood. The stamp marked an end, but also a beginning. A family, finally released from the file that had separated them. And so the courthouse bench, once a site of departure, became a place of return. The file remained, a silent witness, as the light shifted from gold to gray. In the quiet, the stamp said what words could not. The child was always wanted. The family was always hers. The light through the high window softened from gold to pallid silver, then slowly dimmed. The bench remained, unoccupied, its wood still holding the warmth of two women who had finally become family. A breath of air from the marble corridor lifted a corner of the file, then let it fall back into place. The red stamp caught the last ray of sunlight, glowing briefly like an ember. Then the light retreated, leaving only the quiet shape of a folder on a bench in an empty hall. No clock ticked here. No footsteps echoed. Only the file remained, patient and permanent. Outside, the city stirred with its ordinary flurry, but inside the courthouse, a long-delayed peace had settled into the marble. The camera pulled back slowly, letting the bench grow smaller, the file fade into the dark grain. The hallway dissolved into shadow, the stamp's ink no longer legible, only the faith of its presence remaining. And then silence. The file and the hallway settled into the dark, their story complete.